Namaskar. Welcome to this session. Actually, we are considering, or we have embarked upon a very interesting subject, that is Kaya Vyuha jnanam. The Kaya Vyuha jnanam, or the knowledge of the body constellation, body constitution, physical body constitution. Usually we take recourse to book on anatomy and physiology and try to understand human body. However, in Adhyatma, it's altogether a different perspective about human embodiment. Even as far as the corporeal body is concerned, it's a marvel as to how the body is constituted in an embryo. It's a marvelous thing what happens in those 9 months when a baby is conceived by a mother. And it's a really marvel just to understand the corporeal dimension of body constitution and how the body evolves. It is mind-boggling marvel. And that one can get to know by reading the embryology and the biological process of life forming in a womb. But that's one dimension, because larger view will tell us that even if generally all human life is evolved in those 9 odd months, or 9 months and about 10 days, and the life takes birth, yet it reveals us that no individual is identical to another individual, and each life is exceptional. That means if you take your own condition, it is indeed reality that no one ever so far was born like you are. No one ever will be born like you are. Every one of us is special person, and there is no parallel, no comparison, no similarity, no identicality at all. We are indeed exceptional. Whatever billions of people so far have taken birth on the planet, each one of them has been exceptional, and each one will be exceptional. We generally speak about the population, global population, at a point in time. But we have lost the count of how many human beings have been so far born. Today we might be standing at something like 7.8 billion population on the planet. But so far, how many human beings have come and gone? We have lost the count of it. And how many human beings will be coming and will be gone is again beyond any measurability. And it is indeed a true reality that no one ever, no two persons ever are identical, ditto identical. And as I just now said, each one is always special. Now, this is because of the karmic background. So if we take into our view the karmic background that each life has, then it becomes much more mind-boggling as to how the Vidhata, the creator, is able to create every person as a special person, every person as a unique person. So that's a great creativity of the Almighty, that no individuals are identical. Ever can be identical, ever will be identical, ever were identical. Now that's something which we need to spare a thought on, about this marvelous varieties of people. So the thing is that with a karmic background, no two individuals are identical, can ever be identical, were ever identical. Everything is for the first time and only one time. We are born like this today, which is the first time and only one time. We will never be born once again with the same potentials, with the same mapping, with the same constitution, and with the same manifestation. But however, the certain things are constant and static, like anatomy of human being. Whether of our times or whether of past times, retrospectively, going back to maybe the first generation of human beings on the planet, and then prospectively to the generations of human beings, the anatomies have been identical. 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head, 2 eyes, 2 ears, etc. Or the anatomy, where which organ is. So that remains constant. There are certain things which are constant. And that anatomy tells us about. That's why we can study the anatomy objectively, because it is constant. Where the heart is, where the liver is, where the stomach is, where the colons are, where the intestines are, it's all mapped. And that's the constant. So, the constitution of human embodiment is a marvel. And therefore, when it is in such varieties, it is ideal that we stick to our own embodiment and try to explore our own embodiment. Anyway, coming to moot point here, our corporeal manifest embodiment is usually said to be Panchabhutika, that it is constituted by 5 elements or Panchabhutas. But that's a sweeping statement, although there is nothing to take objection about. Yet metaphysics tells us that in a manifest universe, all that we sight as sensory objects, having Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, they are from quintuplicated elements. The 5 elements come together in a quintuplication, which is called the Panchikarana theory in Adhyatma and in Vedanta. So basically, the Mahabhutas are in a quintuplicated condition to take shape and form. So our bodies are of quintuplicated Mahabhutas. Quintuplicated Mahabhutas simply mean that all the 5 elements come together. As it is the view of modern ecology that all elements exist in all elements, and no element exists isolated, in an isolated form, but always all elements exist in all elements. That's the sweeping statement that you get in ecology, which is one of the modern subjects. But the ancient wisdom, the Vedanta and Adhyatmata, speaks about Panchikaranam. And we had considered the topic of Panchikaranam earlier in the Sadhana Pada, when we were dealing with Prakriti, the matter, the creative matter, that any matter in any particular form is constituted by 12.5% each by other 4 elements. Like if you take the matter of water, say the water body like ocean. The ocean doesn't have 100% water element. Although it has water, completely made up of water, filled up by water, the water element is only 50%. And other 4 elements participate and come in 12.5% each. Or take case of a rock or boulder or a piece of metal. It is the parthiva, or it is of element of earth, but the element of earth in it is only 50%, and rest of the 50% is shared by other 4 elements, namely Ap, Tej, Vayu, Akash. In case of fire, say a flame, the flame is not 100% element of fire. All the flame is 100% fire. It is not 100% element of fire. There is again 12.5% each of other 4 elements, which are named respectively Akash, Vayu, Up and Prithvi. So the point is the quintuplication. Quintuplication is the process for a manifest embodiment to appear. And in that sense, our body is elemental, that it is constituted by 5 elements. So it is Panchabhutika. Now, this concept of Panchabhutikata is in the domain of metaphysics. And the physics only deals with something that is called Bhautika. And therefore physics is called Bhautika Shastra. Padartha Vignan or Bhautika Shastra. While if you go to the domain of metaphysics, then you are told that all the other 4 elements are there in Prithvi. All the 4 elements are there in Akash. All the 4 elements are there in Up, Tej, Vayu, Prithvi, etc. So, about our embodiment, we should know that the manifest part of it, which is visible to our eyes and which is object for our 5 senses of perception, it is quintuplicated. So that's one thing. Now this is called Adibhautika. Our embodiment is around the embodied Purusha Tattva, Atmatattva. That's the embodied principle, the conscious principle, the sentient principle, the living principle, the Chaitanyam. That is the embodied. And then we have the whole embodiment around it. So with reference to the Atmatattva, when we consider the Bhautika, it is called Adibhautika. Now in this Adibhautika, we have all the manifestations which generate from the 5 elements. A little difference between Bhautik and Adibhautik should be noted. Say for example, in our Ayurveda, we are told about certain fruits are Ushna in nature. That is, they are of the nature of heat, and certain fruits are certain nature of Shitalata, cold. For example, banana is a cold fruit and mango is a hot fruit. Most of the fruits in summer are Ushna Padarthas. Or say something like onion, which is cooling. On the other hand, ginger, which is heating. Now, physical temperature of onion and ginger may not be different. It is not that you touch the ginger and you get the heat sensation or hot sensation, and you touch onion and you get cold sensation. But however, they are, for our embodiment, when they go inside our body, the ginger turns out heat and onion would turn out something that is very cooling. And therefore we have these classifications that something is hot in the sense Ushna, and certain things are Shita, that is cooling to embodiment. That is why when you have excess of heat in the body, you are asked to refrain from ginger-like things in your food. And then you are asked to take the food items which are cooling. So Ayurveda speaks about all these things, each aspect that is edible, which has Ushnata and which has a lack of it, and which has Shitalata and absence of it. So therefore we are familiar with that concept of cup of tea taken in the winter is with ginger, and we don't take cup of tea with ginger in summer. So it is because of the Ushnata in ginger. So the point is, it is not temperature, but it is consequence once it goes into the body. So something like ginger will increase the heat in the body, may not be increasing temperature but heat in the body, and something will be cooling the body, not dropping the temperature of the body necessarily, but will be cooling the system, such as onion. Certain vegetables are cooling, certain vegetables are heating. So that's a thought that you get in Ayurveda. So the Adibhautik aspect is to be taken that way. How it is for life, how that elemental manifestation is for the life principle. or embodiment of the life. And Ayurveda understands this, and therefore it has a regimen, or what is called as the concept of Ritu Chakra, in seasons, in what seasons what to avoid and what to eat and what not to eat, etc. So the 6 seasons are considered with respect to what should be eaten and not eaten. And as I said just now, that ginger, Adibhautika, it is heating agent, and something like cucumber, onion, coriander, they are cooling to the system. That's the embodiment. So we have an Adibhautika constitution apart from Bhautika constitution. And in Adhyatma, this dimension is given importance, the Adibhautikata, because there is embodied, which is the life principle, conscious principle, sentient principle, Chaitanya, Atmatattva, Chaitanya Tattva, and then it has an embodiment. That embodied has embodiment of the nature of body-mind complex. So, the Adibhautika mapping of our embodiment is to be also understood. Now, when something is Adibhautika, invariably there is Adidaivika and Adhyatmika. This is a wonderful concept that comes in the wisdom of the Lord, that you cannot just say something is merely Adibhautika. When there is something Adibhautikata, there is Adidaivikata and Adhyatmikata. So these 3 always come together. So our embodiment has also Adidaivik constitution. In the last session, I made a running reference that the 33 gods are residing. Ashtavasu, Ekadasha Rudra, Dvadasha Aditya, Indra Prajapati, or Ashtavasu, Ekadasha Rudra, Dvadasha Aditya, Ashwini Kumars. They reside in the embodiment. These are celestial beings. So there is also constitution, which is Adidaivik. And there is a wonderful description that you get in Upanishads, that these Indriyas, Chaturdasha Indriyas, have Chaturdasha presiding deities, such as the mention that you get in Upanishads, Agni Vag Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. The Agni becomes Vak and enters the mouth. So there is Agni in eyes, Aditya. There is Agni in mouth. There is Agni in your palm part of the hand. Because of the Agni, you don't grow hair on your palms. You will have the hair on the back of the palm, but you will not have hair on the front of the palm, because that is Agni Sthana. It is presided over by Agni. The mouth is also presided over by Agni Devata. That is why the mouth is always damp. If the mouth is dry, it is not a comfortable condition, and it is not a healthy condition, it is not comfortable condition. So the mouth is always damp, because Agni Devata resides in the heart, in the eyes. So Upanishads describe that, how each Devata is residing in Chaturdasha Indriyas. And I would request you to go back to the Swadhyaya topic that was discussed in Niyamas, where we definitely mentioned about Chaturdasha Devatas in Chaturdasha Indriyas. the 5 cognitive, 5 punitive and 4 internal organs, the 5 plus 5 plus 4 become 14, and the 14 have 14 deities presiding over. So also we had discussed Pranamaya Kosha on an earlier occasion when we embarked upon the topic of pranayam in Sadhana Pada. We discussed the Pranamaya Kosha, and therein we were briefed that Pranamaya Kosha is a dwelling place for all the celestial forces, and therefore they bring their celestial atmosphere for them to be residing in our embodiment, and that is a Pranamaya Kosha. Just as if we have to go from this planet and land on some extraterrestrial body, we will be taking oxygen with us because we live by oxygen. So we would take oxygen cylinder and then go to Moon and Mars and whatever planet in the solar system, or whatever body outside the Earth, celestial body, because we won't be given oxygen there. We will have to take our oxygen with us. So just as we would go with oxygen wherever there is dearth of oxygen and wherever there is absence of oxygen, that if you are to go to a planet such as Venus, you have the atmosphere of carbon dioxide and you don't have oxygen in the atmosphere, so you will have to take your oxygen. Wherever you go, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, wherever you are going, you will have to take oxygen with you, even on the moon. So, similarly, all the celestial forces come with their atmospheres, and we carry our atmosphere in a cylinder if we are to go to a celestial plane, extraterrestrial plane. We would take oxygen cylinder, and they come with their atmosphere, and that atmosphere is within our embodiment, that is called Pranamaya Kosha. Therefore, Devatas reside in the Pranamaya Kosha of our embodiment, and you don't have a terrestrial atmosphere there. You have celestial atmosphere within you. So it's an interesting mapping that you can get in Upanishads and in the text of the lore. We speak about all these Vasuganaas, Rudraganas, Adityaganas, Marudaganas, Devatas, deities, demi-deities, semi-deities, as to how they reside. Yaksha, Rakshasa, Gandharva, all those, they reside in our embodiment. All the universal inhabitants are inhabiting within our embodiment. That is why it is called microcosm. So the point is, we have the atmospheres of all those celestial planes, whereby the celestial beings are also inmates in our embodiment. As a matter of fact, they constitute the middle management in our embodiment. They run our embodiment. All that's why these organs are called Indriyas. Indra is Mahendra, he is the king of all gods, and all the gods are under him. So therefore they are called Indriya. That means of Indra. Indra is king of all gods. And therefore we don't call them organs. We call them Indriyas. Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Antarendriyas, Pachanendriyas, Shvasanendriyas, Jananendriyas, Visargendriyas. So they are all Indriyas of the entire, all systemic body, of which modern anatomy speaks about. That you have skeletal-muscular system, you have gastroenterological system, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, nervous system, glandular system, generative system. So we know this concept of systemic body, which is made up of different systems. From anatomical systems to cellular systems, we have so many systems within our embodiment. But in vernacular and in Sanskrit, they are called indriyas. That tells us that they all have celestial characteristics. And we should really appreciate this marvel, how any organ in our body works. The working of heart is a marvel. Working of brain is a marvel. It is not something terrestrial. We are all humans, but nothing in us is of human plane figuratively. It is indeed superhuman. The way our heart works, it is indeed superhuman. The way our brain works, it is indeed superhuman. The way liver, stomach, colon, bladder, spleen, pancreas, intestines, duodenum, kidneys work, it is indeed superhuman. So we human beings are constituted by superhuman constituents. Because the way they work is indeed a marvel. The way the brain functions on one hand, to the way heart functions on the other hand, to a liver, stomach, colon, bladder, any organ functions, kidneys, pancreas, spleen, intestines, the way they function, it is indeed a marvel. And these organs run for 60, 70, 80, 90 years without complaint, which is not the case of any human machine, man-made machine, that you have to change the parts of it. You have to go for spare parts. You have to change the parts. Because there is that enormous wear and tear. While these organs, they last for lifetime. And with all the nonsense that goes in life, still they work. They continue to work. It's indeed a marvel. It is because they are celestial. So this is an interesting statement to make, that we are humans, therefore terrestrial, but constituted by everything that is celestial, transhuman, beyond human, transcending human plane, transcending human characteristics. And that's why we call them indriyas, of Indra, of Devendra, of Devadevatas. So it is important to have the mapping of human embodiment and figure out where which deity resides. Which deity, demi-deity, semi-deity, yaksha-rakshasas, where do they reside? And this is really done by the texts, traditional texts. The Smritis have explained this out, and they have done the mapping as to which deity resides where. And we know how these deities are important. Because without these deities or these celestial constituents within us, we won't be living. We live because of the celestial grace that is in us. Therefore, on the point of death, along with prana, all these indriyas depart. That means the presiding deities decide to disembark and the death comes about, whereby we just leave the mortal coils behind. We don't die, but we leave the mortal coils behind. We proceed in transmigratory journeys as described by eschatology, and we take the new birth. We come back again in some form or the other. So we don't really die, but we leave our mortal coils behind. And as Bhagavad Gita describes, that just as old clothes, rotten clothes are discarded and new ones are worn, the body is similarly like a clothing for the Atma. for the Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram. So the body is like a cloth taken by it. So when it is discardable, discard worthy, it is definitely disposable matter, and therefore we have to take up new clothes, and we take new clothes by new birth. So that's what the Adhyatma tells us about. So there is Adidaivic constitution is so important, and we had some idea about this while we were discussing Swadhyaya in Niyamas. And it would be interesting to have this mapping of which deities are where. If there are 33 devatas, or also described as 330 million deities in our embodiment, 33 crores. So that's the Adidaivic constitution, which is important to understand, and the mapping of it. And the modern science doesn't map the body that way. It will map nervous system, circulatory system, the anatomical system. It will do the mapping to show which organ is where. It will do the mapping of fabulous circulatory system, which extends to nearly 60,000 miles on an average in the human embodiment, and nervous system which spans about 6,000 miles. So they will do those mappings, but they have no clue to Adidaivic and Adhyatmic aspects. Because this embodiment, we have Sri Vaikuntham for the Antaryami Vyuha of Paravasudeva to indwell. The Pancharatra tells us Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha, and tells us about Para Vyuha Vibhava Antaryami and Archa. And the Antaryami is within us. So, naturally, the Vaikunthadipati is within us. Therefore, there must be a space that is Vaikuntham within us. So, Rudra Devata resides within us, so the Kailas should be within us. The Brahma, four-faced Brahma resides within us. Therefore, his Satya Loka should be within us. All the lokas are within us. So the Adhyatma does this mapping and tells us the Atmasthana, the Ishvara Sthana, how this is shrine of the divinity, and where is the sanctum sanctorum of divinity, the indweller, indwelling principle, the Antaryami, Amruta Purusha. So that mapping is done by Adhyatma Shastra. So the point is, this Kaya Vyuha Jnanam means it circumscribes the Adibhautika, Adidaivik, Adhyatmic aspects within the embodiment. So it does the mapping of the various devatas, those 33 crores of devatas, that is 330 million deities who are residing within us. And when they are residing, it is easily understood how insignificant we are in our own embodiment. We are just Atma Chaitanya Jiva. So we as Jiva, life, we are insignificant when there is that band of galaxy of deities, demi-deities, semi-deities residing within our embodiment. So that is how the body is also mapped. So also the embodiment is mapped in the dimensions of Karana Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Sthula Shariram. And in Adhyatma it is important to understand them. What is Sthula Shariram? What is Sukshma Shariram? What is Karana Shariram? So Sukshma Shariram is astral body, which will be transmigrating, which is again ageless. It is deathless, exception being liberation. When a soul is liberated, then the Sukshma Sharira is dismantled. Otherwise, it is there for countless of lives and it transmigrates. So Karana Shariram, that is the Atma Chaitanya, Mahakarana Shariram, that is the Paramatma. And the Paramatma is said to be embodied. That's why Brahma Sutras are called Shariraka Sutras. Because his body is said to be Atma. The immortal Atma is said to be the body of Paramatma. In Antaryami Brahmana Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yo Vijnane Tishthan, in the Kanva Shaka, and Ya Atmani Tishthan in Madhyandina Shaka. So the Atma and Vijnana Atma, they are body of divinity within us. They are also body, but they are metaphysical in nature. So we have concept of three shariras, Sharira Traya, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharira. So the student of Adhyatma must be familiar with this Sthula Sukshma Karana Shariram. Then there are those Panchakoshas, which are again described in Adhyatma. So that will also tell us about our embodiment, how there are these layers of embodiment. Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, housing respectively Annam Brahma, Prana Brahma, Mano Brahma, Vijnana Brahma, Ananda Brahma. Then this is all very fundamental, important, vital for those who are pursuing Adhyatma and spirituality. And the Upanishads and the Smriti Granthas tell us about it. As I said during the last session, Gorakshanath has described the esoteric aspects of the embodiment, where he speaks about even the mountains and rivers and the oceans within us. There is the earth in microcosmic form is within our embodiment. The whole solar system is within our embodiment. The whole Milky Way is within our embodiment. And the whole universe is within our embodiment. That's why that famous statement which comes in Adhyatma, concept of Pindanda and Brahmanda, and whatever is in Brahmanda is said to be in Pindanda, and whatever is in Pindanda is said to be projecting out in Brahmanda. Microcosm and macrocosm. So these are all aspects of Kaya Vyuha, how this body from different perspectives and dimensions is read and then postulated. Then Ayurveda speaks about another concept called Shat Kaushik Deham. Shat Kaushik Deham. That means it says that the three aspects are inherited from the father and three aspects are inherited from mother in our physical manifestation. So that's called Shat Kaushika. The three are borrowed from the contents of sperm cell which comes from father, and the 3 from ovum cells which comes from mother. So the concept of Shat Kaushika Deha is also described in Adhyatma. So it's a very interesting concept. Then more importantly, to come directly to what we are discussing, esoteric anatomy. Even our grosser body has esoteric status. In a yogic process, when you are in a yogic process, any bone in your body is not just hard tissue body. It has its own unique status. Say for instance, in physical dimension, what you call as scapulae, shoulder blades, which are in your back, the top part of your back, there are 2 bony plates and they are called shoulder blades. They are called scapulae. So in physical dimension, the shoulder blades are there to support the lungs. And therefore they say if the shoulder blades are excised, lungs would collapse. The shoulder blade like structure is necessary for the lungs to be sustained and avoid any collapse of the lungs. So anatomy postulates that shoulder blades are there to support the lungs, because without shoulder blades, the lungs would collapse. But the shoulder blades are also locus of mind, psyche, consciousness, which is experienced in a yogic process. In the field of yoga, your shoulder blade becomes locus of mind, psyche, consciousness. Shoulder blades become locus of your breathing process. Shoulder blade become locus for anatomy or body autonomy, breath autonomy and mind autonomy. So they have different statuses with which you become familiar if you are embracing yoga technology through asana and pranayama. So there is this esoteric aspect. The sternum bone, which is in the front, at the center of the rib cage, that's called breastbone. But even in figurative language, a person is described to be crestfallen because of particular mind state, depressed, dejected, depleted conditions of mind. We say crestfallen. That the word crest comes for sternum, breastbone. So in people who are depressed people, you will see that the sternum caves in. That means it has something to do with your state of mind insofar as the positivity and negativity is concerned. So there is esoteric aspects of your embodiment. So to give little opening for your thought process, it can be said, you have a liver, I have a liver. That's an organ in digestive system. You have a liver, I have a liver. Yajnavalkya had a liver, Vyasa had a liver, Jnaneshwar had a liver. But then, as far as contribution was concerned, it was a different contribution. What the liver did for someone to become Jnaneshwar, Yajnavalkya, Vedavyas, or someone to appear as Rama, Krishna, the deities, the Purushottamas. So they have a range to operate in caliber. So when someone is spiritually evolved, it is not that somebody is only evolved in the consciousness and mind matters. One is evolved in the status of all the anatomical organs. They function differently. They function for spiritual process. It is not to be thought that brain constitutes for spiritual thought process. The entire anatomy contributes for spiritual thought process. So there is esoteric aspects of embodiment, and in technology of yoga you become aware of this and you start getting some literacy about esoteric aspects of the anatomy. So that is what is spoken of in this Kaya Vyuha jnanam. And of course we will be going through, following 2-3 sutras where we will be given some idea about the esoteric status of various locations, such as Nabhi Chakra, Kaya Vyuha jnanam, Kantakupa, Hrudaye Chitta Samvit, Murna Jyotihi. So these are all parts in the human embodiment. So they have esoteric status because they have unique functions to play in spiritual processes. Anyway, that is what is this Kaya Vyuha jnanam, which Patanjali speaks about in this sutra. So let us end the discussion on this sutra and proceed to next sutra, but that is in the next session. Namaskar all of you.